Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again. And that must mean that I am Professor Robert E.G. Black, and this is the Groundhog Day Project.
It's one of those infinite time loop situations you might have heard about.
It's a thing where the same day keeps happening.
Time.
I wake up every day right here, right in Punxsutawney, and it's always February 2nd.
The last revision is what counts, apparently.
Minute 38, Phil, Rita, eventually Larry, in the diner, the Tip Top Cafe, on the town square, Woodstock, Illinois, pretending to be Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. At the end of last minute, Phil had just shoved an entire piece of cake into his mouth. Rita showed some disgust, and he said, "What?" with a full mouth of cake. And she responds by reciting some poetry. The wretch, concentred all in self, living shall forfeit fair renown, and doubly dying shall go down to the vile dust from whence he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung. Sir Walter Scott. Phil is chewing this whole time for the reaction shots. He's got a little bit of cake icing on the side of his mouth. He laughs. And do I want to point out the problem first, or I want to continue the dialogue? I'll explain the problem. Not the problem, but the sort of irony, I guess. The quote she's talking about is a guy who is self-centered, and so he can never be, fair renown, meaning like he's going to be well known as a good person. But he won't be because he's self-centered. Doubly dying shall go down. He's going to have like ego death and then actual death when he realizes that he's not going to be celebrated. Unwept, unhonored, and unsung. The irony is that because Phil's in a time loop, he will be unwept, unhonored, and unsung. And going forward, he's eventually going to have to figure out how to just accept that and be. Although on the final iteration of Groundhog Day that we see in the movie, he is honored and sung. He's not wept. Well, no, he's wept. Rita doesn't cry, but she's definitely upset when he dies. When we see that, the only scene where Phil is not alive that we see, well, I guess technically we see a couple, when the truck explodes and we cut back to Rita and Larry on the hill. But also we see them in the hospital. Not the morgue, it's the hospital. We see Phil getting covered up and the two of them are there, and Larry kind of pretends to be upset. He has a great line. We'll talk about it when we get to that minute. It's fantastic. Rita definitely feels like she's upset about it. So he is wept at one point, even while being a bad person. He is, in the end, honored in the town. The town loves him. They clap for him. There's an eager auction for him. He has earned their honor in just this one day. He will not be unwept, unhonored, unsung, ultimately. Even though on other days, maybe the penultimate day of his time loop, he may have been celebrated by them, but he just didn't quite make that last move that earned the loop ending. And so he had to start over again at the beginning of the day in that version that we see. So her quote is actually a really nice one because it's about him being egocentric, and so he won't be honored, but also because of the time loop, he can't be. So he scoffs and laughs, and she says, "What? You don't like poetry?" Which, Rita, I know you're battling with Phil Connors, and he is sarcasm extraordinaire. He's good at insulting people. He impulsively insults people in weird ways sometimes because he's so quick to do it. But your response, and this is both horribly fucked up and brilliant, she has a poem ready to recite to insult him. Like, I would love to be able to insult people with poetry. That's great. And it's not even a French poet. We know she studied French poetry. But no, Sir Walter Scott. And Phil responds, as he always does, with a joke. "I love poetry. I just thought that was Willard Scott." Willard Scott being, of course, for those who don't know, because it's 2025, a famous weatherman who was on, I believe was he on the Today Show or Good Morning America? I think the Today Show. That's NBC, right? Yeah, I think he was on NBC. But he was on basically the morning show out of New York, and he quite famously often would visit people turning 100, and I believe he would go to the Groundhog Festival. So he's the kind of network weather guy that Phil looks up to. So that he gets the name check from him here is nice for Phil. And he says, "I was confused," as if he's pretending like he didn't understand the poem because he thought it was by Willard Scott, which, if you think about it, doesn't make sense at all. But also, he's just being a dick. he did understand the poem. He understands the assignment here. Rita is in this conversation to win. She's going to beat Phil at his own specialty. And he says, you think I'm acting like this because I'm egocentric? And her response is, great. I know you're egocentric. It's your defining characteristic. There's a weird thing here. I think it's already happening in a minute, but then going forward, behind Rita, right behind Rita, we have Gus with his back to Rita, and then Ralph facing toward us, although we can't really see Ralph in this minute because Gus is a bigger guy. Rita's in the way as well. But what we can see is that the table past them is where Nancy Taylor is sitting. We're going to see her in a little bit. But here we can see her in the background, and she is reading the paper, the local Punxsutawney Spirit, and she keeps turning to her left, our right, and talking to someone. But I don't think anyone's there. I don't think or maybe the waiter is nearby but out of frame. In which case, she's talking to someone who's actually several feet away in this shot, which is a little weird. Or she's just, she's got some business in movie terms, a set term. She's got something she's going to do so that it feels like she's alive. Reading a paper is not that interesting visually, so you want a little movement in the background to point out the life.
Jumping in, not actually from editing, but from when I was done editing, I went to get a screen grab from the minute and noticed in the very first couple seconds of this minute, you can see that there is someone back there talking to Nancy. So I'm actually incorrect. She's not talking to someone out of frame. She's talking to someone small enough, short enough, to be completely blocked by Rita's hair and Gus. It's Alice, the waitress. Came over from Ireland as a girl. Lived in Erie most of her life. She's just almost perfectly framed to be invisible in this shot. But she is there. So, correction to me.
And then Larry arrives. Are you guys ready? We better get going if we're going to stay ahead of the weather. Same thing he said before, and he'll say again later. Rita says, thanks, Larry. And then she turns to Phil. Well, would you like a doggy bag? She kind of gestures at the whole table full of pastries and desserts. Phil's like, nah, I'm going to stay here and finish. I thought you hated this town. It's beginning to grow on me. And then he looks at Larry, although Larry's not in frame. And he points at something on the table. Larry, quit staring. These are excellent. I don't know what he points at, because it's hard to gauge the depth exactly of which plate he's pointing at. Rita says, bon appetit. Of course she says it in French. Plus, it's just a thing people say, but specifically French. Specifically Rita, I think. And that's the end of the minute. She's getting up to leave with Larry, which, as the producer, is kind of hilarious. That she let Phil say, no, I'm going to stay and finish. Like, where's she going? As producer, is she going to get in the van with Larry and drive back to Pittsburgh, leaving Phil behind? Like, would Phil be able to find his way to Pittsburgh? Yes. Is he going to do it easily? No. It's a little weird that she just gets up and leaves. She should be trying to talk him into like, no, we gotta go. The van's leaving. You need to be in the van. She doesn't. Phil sticks behind, and we get to next minute. Phil's still in the diner. Rita and Larry have left. That's all I got for minute 38. Till next time, watch a movie, do whatever your favorite hobbies are, read a book, play a game, hang out with your friends, your loved ones, whatever. Take care.
Knew you were gonna say that.
This has been a production of Lemming Drops Studio. You can find links to more at lemmingdrops.com or join the Facebook group Lemming Drops Studio Tour. Also, you can support all my shows at patreon.com/lemmingdrops.
What is wrong in the end which never comes? Or which comes again and again, lapping, like waves.
Since the Big Bang set everything in motion, everything that happens in this universe has to be the way it is. Particles unfolding the way they're destined to.
How do you sleep at night? You've never seen Groundhog Day?
Yeah, you know Groundhog Day is not a documentary.
Remember when Groundhog Day was just a movie?